think today we got to talk about that subject in general, and that is the things that you do that cause others to do them as well. So let's first talk about, the first subject was being yourself. Being yourself causes others to be themselves. Okay? The next is to smile. Is when you smile, and when I say smile, I don't mean necessarily to have a big weird grin on your face, but there's a certain smiling you can do just with your eyes when you pass somebody that lets them know that they're okay in your book. You know what I'm talking about? It's just it could be even a little move of the head, a little nod, but you're giving someone the nod that they're okay. When you do that, it gives people a feeling like, hey, that's one less of 7 billion people that I got to wonder what she's thinking of me. Because she smiled, and she made me feel comfortable, and she made me feel that I'm accepted. When you smile, at least with the eyes, you are automatically not the enemy. But when you don't smile with your eyes, and you walk around, what happens is, it makes people self-conscious. And you might be thinking, hey, I'm just minding my own business. I'm not making anyone feel self-conscious, right? You're just minding your own business. You're not making anyone feel self-conscious. Guess again. Anyone you pass is going to feel self-conscious. You cause people to feel self-conscious if you're not smiling with your eyes. And for this reason, our sages say to greet all people with a smile. That's number one. And I say that your face is public property. If you're going to be outside in the world, make sure that you are passing around good vibes and not negative vibes, and watch people shine. I once followed a smile from Jaffa Gate all the way down to the Kotel. I noticed people weren't being very smiley, and I decided to flash a big smile at Jaffa Gate, at someone walking out of the old city. And it made that person shine with a smile. And then I just watched that person now walking out was shining with a smile, and I saw someone coming in who was not smiling and got smiled at and was now smiling, which caused someone else to smile. And then I noticed when I got to around the corner near the Arab Shuk there, I noticed that now there was a group of people smiling their way in. Now, I rode my bike all the way down to Aish. People were not smiling. I put away my bike. I went down to Kotel to pray a little bit, and I found a whole group of people smiling on their way into... random people, they were not with each other. There were random people smiling their way down the stairs and causing everyone to smile who were going up the stairs. Now, I'm not sure because I came into Aish, and I also was racing through the old city staircases and stuff. But I'm almost sure that was the smile that I gave someone at Jaffa Gate. So it goes viral when you smile. And I'm going to repeat it once again, that it tells people, when you're smiling and letting your face be public property and being a nice-looking person to walk by, you are telling the world that they're okay. That you're one less person of 7 billion people that they're going to have to wonder what they think of. Because you just said good Shabbos, or you just said good morning, or you just smiled, or you just looked with a shining countenance without smiling. And that's why our sages say that. Just in the case of gender, you'll notice in Jerusalem that genders don't do this with intergenderally. Men generally don't do that towards the women, and the women don't do that generally towards the men. So you got to know your place. Jerusalem maybe is not the place for that, but California, oh my gosh, if you don't smile, you have to say good morning to everybody. You know, if you don't do that, you're evil. You're evil, and I'm especially stuck because I look rabbinic. So I must say good morning to everyone, and good afternoon, and how are you, and shalom, and good Shabbos. I say good Shabbos to everybody on Shabbos. The next is beauty. There's a famous saying, every bride is beautiful on her wedding day. You ever heard that one? Every bride is beautiful on her wedding day. Well, where did that come from? How's every bride beautiful on her wedding day? The answer is that because the whole world has come to her wedding, and it's all because of her, and she's the focal point of all the adoration of everyone at this wedding. I mean, when you go to a wedding, it's like all the adoration's on the kala. The groom's like, okay, we'll do some shots. You know, we'll sing some songs. We're going to eat some herring. We can do another shot. And the groom's got over there. But you can ignore him basically the whole time. The kala is like, oh my gosh, the whole world is like, it's like a focal point of this event. Is the kala in this beautiful chair. The groom doesn't get a beautiful chair. He sits on a chair. And the rabbi asks him questions while he fills out the ketubah. Okay. That causes her to glow with beauty. She glows with beauty. Doesn't matter what you look like the day before or the day after. She glows with beauty. Give people their beauty. Give people their beauty. Do you know who the ugliest Jewish woman was in all of Jewish history? It's actually recorded in the Talmud who was the ugliest woman in Jewish history. Do you know who it was? Anyone know? Who? Yeah, the ugliest Jewish woman. No, not Queen. Not Leah, no. Boy, there's a whole list of them in there. Hagar. I think that was Sammy Hagar. No, it's the answer is Miriam. Miriam the prophetess. You got it. Miriam, you said it. Miriam the prophetess. She was Moses and Aaron's sister. And she just didn't get the looks. She didn't get Moses's good looks. What? Moses had horns. Anyway, he just said he glowed, okay. So he was radiant. Anyway, she was the ugliest, and she had two nicknames. She had several nicknames, but two of them. One was Yeriot, which means curtains, because her complexion was like a curtain. Her face, like you normally like a smooth face, hers was like a curtain. You know, like, yeah, that was one of her nicknames. They called her curtains. And she had another nickname. I think she had three nicknames, but she had another nickname which was Azuva, which means the abandoned one, because no one would marry her. Azuva. Find this, if you want to find this. This is in the first chapter of the tractate called Sota, which goes into lots of detail of the story of the Exodus, including Miriam and Moses being put on the Nile in the little, floatable crib thing, Anyway, Miriam was called Azuva because she was abandoned because no one would marry her. Comes along a great tzaddik, Kalev, a really holy guy. And he sees Azuva, or Miriam, and he says, no one's marrying her. I'll marry her. And he married her as like a chesed, And God rewarded him for marrying her lishma. That's what the Talmud says. He married her lishma. He married her for the sake of her not being left behind, and for the sake of God. That God, who put a neshama inside this girl, she should not go unwed. And then something happened to her. She was married to this holy man. And the holy man, do you think he thought she was ugly? Could a holy man ever think a human being was ugly? Every human being created in the image of God, invested with a neshama. Does a holy man see the body or the neshama? Holy man sees also the neshama much more. And what happened was, he saw her neshama, and inside her neshama was a beautiful chayin, a beautiful charm, grace. And he took his naf-naf. You know what a naf-naf is in Israelis? For Israelis? Everyone try the Hebrew word naf-naf. Naf-naf. It's anything that you fan the coals on a barbecue to get the flame going. So that's called a naf-naf. Anyway, he fanned the flame. He naf-nafed her inner beauty. And you know what it did? Guess what it did? Simon, what would you guess it did? It started affecting her appearance, her outer beauty. And she got more beautiful, more beautiful, more beautiful, more beautiful, more beautiful, till she became so beautiful that the Talmud records that any man who saw her in the camps, amongst the tents of Israel, anyone who saw her, they just happened to see her, any man who saw her had to run back to his own tent with a box of chocolates for his wife to put out the fire. Give people their beauty. See people as beautiful, and their beauty glows. I have seen, and I'm sure you'll all see, and now God's definitely going to put it in your way, you'll see a person who's very ugly. They'll be in their 40s maybe. They're very ugly, but you can see that they were gorgeous at one point. And probably all kinds of mistakes were made along the way, and they were not, they didn't honor the soul in them, and they let their loves go in all kinds of crazy directions, and they got hurt. And their beauty was not fanned, and so they lost it. And they become very ugly. But if you look at them carefully, you'll see the features are what are considered objectively beautiful features. But they don't glow, and therefore she is ugly. Give people their beauty, and they will glow beautifully. And you may be saying, well, I want someone else to give me my beauty. You want me to give another their beauty? I want mine. Well, I'll tell you, with everything I'm going to put on the board today, it's those who give it are the ones who have it. If you give someone their beauty, you'll have yours. But if you walk around with a narrow eye upon people, always comparing yourself to them and trying to put them down or notice some blemish that they have that you don't, not only are they ugly in your eyes, but they'll be ugly in the eyes of others because you did that, and you yourself will be ugly. Give people their beauty, and the beauty just goes viral. Viral beauty. Give people their beauty. Holy. Holy is another one of these special things where if you fan the flame of someone's holiness, they will be holy. Sometimes I'll run into a student who's doing the wrong thing, and they got caught in the act by me. And they're like, oh, Rabbi Glaser, you always think I'm so holy. Don't you know I've never kept Shabbat? Because I caught them, smoking a cigarette or something in Shabbat. Don't you know I never kept Shabbat? You're impossible. I always got to be so holy around you. And I said, I never said you kept Shabbat or didn't keep Shabbat, but I treat every single person as if they are the holiest Jew. And I've never seen you before on Shabbat, so as far as I'm concerned, you keep Shabbat. Now I find out you don't. But I'm not going to treat you less holy. Over the years, I've held people's holiness, and they loved it. And they say, you know what, this feels so good, I think I'm going to be holy. Just because it feels good, because someone holds my holiness. So this one I'm going to change a little. You hold their holiness for them. Hold their holiness. I'll get back to it in a sec. Just a little caveat is let Jerusalem hold your holiness. If it's not too late, and even if it is too late, don't let Jerusalem be your hometown. Whatever you might have done in your hometown, don't do here. Whatever people might be doing in town, don't fall into that. If you've kept Jerusalem holy, keep it holy. You should be able to come here 20 years from now for your kid's bar mitzvah with your spouse and be able to go from place to place with your spouse and not have one single memory of Jerusalem where you compromised your holiness. You understand where I'm coming from? Let there be a geographical location on the planet that holds your holiness for you. So that you can come back here year after year after year and it always is held for you. There's no location in this city, or maybe even in this country. There's no location in this country where you've compromised your personal sanctity. Let it hold it for you. If it's too late, just don't do it again. Don't let it happen again. If it's too late and you've compromised your holiness, either in Israel or in the holy city of Jerusalem, never again. And just avoid those places when you come back with your spouse. Your husband will be like, oh, let's go get dinner on Ben Yehuda Street. You're like, I think I like a restaurant on Yoel Solomon a little better. He'll be like, why? I want to go to, what's the place called? The meat place and milk place there. La Rome. He's like, I love La Rome. We went there when we were in our yeshiva days. And you'll say, I think there's a La Rome in Mamila. Rimon. I think there's a Rimon in Mamila. He's like, that's milchigs. I want fleischigs. And you're like, honey, I just want milchigs tonight. It'll just be a little mystery why it is you never want to go to Ben Yehuda Street with your husband or your wife. Anyway, let Jerusalem hold that. But that wasn't our subject. Our subject are things that you hold for others. Hold people's holiness. See them as holy. You know, they have a famous line about Jews that anyone who's more observant than I is a fanatic, and anyone who's less observant than I is a goy. Because where I'm at is where a Jew should be. Jews have this insane thought that like wherever they're at is where Jews should be. I don't know where they get that. It's certainly not. That's not the way B'nai Torah look at the world. B'nai Torah look at the world as I'm nowhere, I'm trying to get somewhere, and I will spend my life stretching toward where I'm trying to go. So I'm stretching, Simon's stretching, Sharat Rachel's stretching, Label Ephraim stretching. We're all stretching. But there are people who are not into stretching, and they think Judaism's exactly where they're at. And so anyone who's doing more is a fanatic, and anyone doing less is a goy. Does that sound like someone who's giving everyone their holiness? Not really. Not giving each other their holiness. Give someone their holiness. Hold that for them. Hold their holiness. Everyone try that? Hold their holiness. Say it. Hold their holiness. Hold their holiness. What do they say? Everyone's innocent until proven guilty? Everyone's holy until proven unholy. And you know what? If you ever see them do something that was unholy or knew they did something unholy, what does it say about a tzaddik? If you see a tzaddik sin, what do? If you see someone sin, someone who doesn't sin, like someone who's holy, you see them sin, what do? Benefit of the doubt, why? What do holy people do when they sin? Tshuva. Just because you saw him do that, or you saw her do that, by the time you'll see them again, like even if it's 24 hours later, you see them in that same place, they'll have done tshuva by then. And what do you want to say, tshuva doesn't work? If tshuva doesn't work, we're all sunk. You know, God created tshuva before he even created the world. Because God knew there was no way human beings could stand without tshuva. That's why you'll notice the name Elohim, which is the name of strict just judgment. Meaning it's the natural laws. Like gravity is made of Elohim, right? It just works. It's strict natural law. So if you look in the Genesis story, in the creation of the world, it's always Elohim, bara Elohim, Hashem made it, Elohim made it. The second Adam's introduced, you get the name Hashem. It says Hashem Elohim. Why Hashem? Because it stands for outside of time. What does that have to do with anything? And the answer is, because if he's outside of time, that means before you did something wrong, he knew you were going to do it. After you did something wrong, he knew you did it. He knew before, he knew after. You didn't shock him. There's nothing you could do to surprise God. Yeah, if you see someone do something wrong, and so therefore they're not holy, they probably did tshuva for it, and now they're holy. They did tshuva because they're holy. Holy people don't do sins. People do make mistakes. So if they made a mistake, chances are they corrected that mistake by the time you'll see them again. But what do most people do if they see someone sin, they see someone make that mistake? Immediately, that's who they are. What they did is who they are. Says who? Maybe they just made a mistake. Maybe they're having a weak time. Maybe they fell. Maybe they were depressed. And this was some form of medication for their depression, and they transgressed. Who says they're not holy?
Usually you judge them the same way you judge yourself.
Of course. Okay, so everyone got this one? Hold the holiness. Hold the holiness for people. And this, if any of you ever want to reach out to Jews, raise your hand if you have some family members you'd love to be more involved Jewishly. Raise your hand. You have family members you'd love to be more involved Jewishly. Keep your hand up. Okay, I want you to picture, those whose hands are up, I want you to picture a person in your mind, and from now on you see them as holy. And you hold the holiness for that person. Okay? Hold the holiness. You'll see people really, they get traction when you see them that way. Next. The next is giving. And giving is the other thing you want to do with people. It does a special thing. First of all, it makes others want to give. But giving gives you a lot, great feelings. You feel good about yourself. But the main thing giving does is it creates a little bell in heaven. You know about this bell in heaven, Nachama? When you give, a little bell in heaven, it goes off. Ding! And God says, oh, I got a giver. A giver. Now let me explain something. God is in charge of every ant climbing up a tree in the Amazon that it eats. Every aardvark that it eats that ant. Every plant that it gets photosynthesis, water, and nutrients from soil. Every elephant that it finds a peanut plant. God's in charge of all these things. But the one being on the planet, close it tight, the one being on the planet that God is not in charge of is the human being. Human being must be fed. Must be fed. Nothing will come and feed it. Must be fed. And it can't really feed itself. It has to first grow something, or it has to buy something, which means it might have to go to work to get the money to buy something. The human being doesn't have its food naturally there. Now, I have met some hippies who live in the sticks, and they do survive. You can survive in nature. But I personally never saw a burger grow off a tree. Human beings have to take care of each other. And God created the world so that we care for each other. It's weird. It's weird. We're the highest species, yet we got the lowest level. We got like somehow like this huge downgrade. You know, like there's first class. You would say plants probably have the most first class. Well, fish. Fish are like, they don't need really air like we need. Fish are like got it made, you know. Well, they do have to find food. I guess plants are probably in first class. And then fish are in second class. And then animals and birds probably in third class. We're like somewhere in the baggage compartment. Trying to figure out what we're going to eat next. We're in the baggage compartment, and we could starve. There are people starving on the planet. They're usually not Jewish. We have to take care of each other. So most countries have the government taking care at a certain level or another. Communism tried to take care of everyone. The U.S. tried their tricks to take care of everybody. The Jewish world has its own rituals of, I didn't mean rituals, their own practices of taking care of each other. But if you're a giver, then God says, I got a giver. Got a giver on my hands. Because who in the end's doing the giving? It really is God. Via us. We are God's arm. God has very long arms. You're God's arm. To make sure others are eating. To make sure others have what they need. God's taking care of the whole planet. It's just with us, He asks us to be intermediaries. So for example, you probably never thought about it this way, but can you see, who can explain to me how giving tzedakah is borrowing? Sorry, who can see how giving tzedakah is God borrowing from you? Who can explain that? Giving tzedakah is lending God money. Giving tzedakah is lending God money. Who can explain that?
Because otherwise he would be the provider.
Well, He is the provider. And you didn't get it? Close. You got it, but you didn't quite get it. What?
Think of yourself, like you're God's will, and He's going to pay you back.
God needs to feed this person. Now this person's at your door. And God needs to feed the person. And so you feed that person. So you lent God the money or the food or the can of beans or the tortillas or whatever you put out the door to this person. You feed that person. You've now basically borrowed money or food from God.
But then God provides you with it. So it's like taking the money that God provides you with it and then giving it.
Yeah, but sometimes you're giving tzedakah money that you really can't afford so much. And you give it anyway. And now you're really borrowing from, God's really borrowing from you. You think God's going to pay you back? For sure He's going to pay you back. God orchestrated this whole situation and will certainly pay you back. But we have to remind ourselves over and over again that if God borrows money from you, He'll pay you back. You ever thought about it that way, Simon? Giving money is God borrowing from you. He'll pay you back. And a little ding goes off in heaven. If you really are a giver, like you're a big giver, I don't mean necessarily amounts, but your heart's about giving. So then God just says, oh, I got myself a clearinghouse. This person's one of my key sustainers. I'll make sure for sure. I'll make sure that for sure this person has. Because they're going to give it. And as long as they keep giving it, I'm going to make sure they have. So what's the key to sustenance? What's the key to sustaining yourself? Sustain others. And you'll never lack. I know people who have chosen to give, period. One of those people, he was so depressed that he got suicidal. And he finally decided that he has nothing to live for. Many of you know him, actually. He had nothing to live for. Some of you know. He hasn't been around so much lately. Although now that I said it, he'll probably walk through the door. And he, just before he did it, he realized, you know what? I wouldn't live for me now. My life's over. but I'll live for everybody else. And that's all he does from the second he wakes up till he goes to bed at night. Takes care of people and little cats and all kinds of other things. Mostly people. And every once in a while I'll come in with a bird. You know, I'll find a bird and I'll want to like nurse it back to health. And sometimes I'll be with a little cat or something. And he's a really special, special guy. But his life is about others because he just realized his life's over. Like, he has no life. So all he does is give. And he's happy. He's actually happy. Give. What I think that you'll notice, and I can keep going, but I'm not going to keep going, what I think you'll notice about everything on the board, being yourself lets others be themselves. Smiling lets people know they're safe around you. Giving people their beauty is what causes others to glow. Holding one's holiness causes people to get traction in their own spiritual growth. Giving to others causes you to have. I hope what you're starting to get is that we're in some kind of weird video game here where it looks like yourself, like you're looking out for number one, like you're supposed to look out for number one. Doesn't it seem like that? We're in some weird video game where it looks like you're supposed to watch out for yourself. But the whole point of the video game, while you're down here inside the circuitry of the video game, the whole point of the video game is, will you give what you want for yourself to others? I think all of us want to be able to be ourselves. We all want to be feeling okay inside. We all want to be beautiful. We all want to feel holy. We all want to be given to. We want to also receive. But if you just flip it and give these things, you'll have them. And if you don't flip it, if you actually just become the person who wants these things, but doesn't give these things, there are people of great beauty. They're called tzaddikim. They know this. They cracked the code on the video game. They know this. They've totally cracked the formula of the video game. They know what's up. And they live these things, this list, amongst others, to give it. And they have it. They cracked the code. There's a famous kitchen in Bnei Brak. Anyone know about the famous kitchen? Who's got the famous kitchen in Bnei Brak? What? Rebbitzin? Who knows the famous kitchen in Bnei Brak? What? Which?
Something with a K?
Yeah, Kanievsky. Rebbitzin Kanievsky's kitchen. Oh, I know I have a picture of it, but to find it amongst thousands of pictures. It's so small I can't find the thumbnail picture of it. I wish I could show it to you. Anyway, let's just say that her kitchen, you can't walk past somebody in it. Meaning it's so narrow that if someone had to get through to the bathroom on the other side of the kitchen, you had to first get out of the kitchen, let them in to go to the kitchen, to the bathroom. Like she had to get out of the kitchen every time someone had to go to the bathroom. And it was not even the length of my head to my feet. The whole kitchen was about 4 feet long. And they didn't have any money. But all she did was feed people. And feed people, feed people. So much food came out of that kitchen, to the point where it became like a soup kitchen. Like people were just lined up out the door, you know, who were needy people she would just be feeding them and feeding them and feeding them. Rebbitzin Kanievsky's kitchen. And she glowed with such beauty, and she shared with everyone such blessings. There was one girl who was going to marry a Gentile, and Rebbitzin Kanievsky tried to convince her not to. And she failed. at convincing her. So she said, well, then can I at least convince you to say one parak of Tehillim every day? One parak of Tehillim. And the girl said she would do it. And so she went up to her room and brings down her own Tehillim from when she was a little girl. Like, everything's to give. This is her Tehillim from when she's a little girl. She hands her her own Tehillim and says, I'm giving you the Tehillim from when I was a little girl. Tehillim is Psalms, a Psalms book. She hands her own Tehillim from when she was a girl and got it from her parents. And the girl opens up the Tehillim on a particular chapter. I forget which chapter it was, but she opens it up randomly. She says, start now, read one before you leave my house. And she opens it up right to lines in a Tehillim. I forget which Tehillim. Shame I don't know which Tehillim. I'm sure it's in my notes, so I'm not looking that up right now. She opens it up to a Tehillim that talks about the total downfall that happened with David's union with the Gentiles when he made some kind of pact with the Gentiles. It was a union. Could easily be used as a union of marriage with the Gentiles and the absolute downfall it created. And she saw that. She turned white. She was Israeli, so she understood what she was reading. She turned white and she broke it off. She's considered that was purely divine and has the Rebbitzins to Tehillim. Give. The Chafetz Chaim heard someone rustling around the front of his house. He comes out, he sees he just sees the back of a foot of someone running out of his door. He looks over at the silver. The only thing they had was silver candlesticks and a silver Kiddush cup. And he sees the candlesticks are gone. He runs down the street chasing this man. And he was seen through Radin, chasing a man through the Radin, saying, I give them to you, I give them to you. Don't be a thief, I give them to you. I give them to you. Don't be a thief. It wasn't about his candlesticks. It was that he shouldn't be a thief. Crack the code, guys. Crack the code on creation. Whatever's on this board, you take a commitment right now. Look at how it's on the board. Being yourself gives others to be themselves. Your face is public property. See the beauty in people. Hold people's holiness. Give. And then make your own list longer. Take these on now, everybody. Raise your hand, you take this on for the next 24 hours. Okay? Okay, come on. 24 hours you're going to give these to everyone you see. You'll catch yourself. It's okay. I don't mean you're not going to fall. You may fall and you'll catch yourself and you'll get back up, okay? I'm not saying you're going to be perfect. Okay, take away any need for perfection. Okay, come on, put your hands up. I don't want L's, I want Vovs, okay? Who's going to give this for the next 24 hours? Come on. Okay, and, by the way, that's going to lead into Shabbos. Come on, Sarah, Michael. That's going to lead into, Rachel.
The whole time?
You will fall, you'll get back up. Not saying you'll be perfect.
Giving could be too much, that's all. For somebody who's working not to.
I'll explain giving in a minute. Okay, I'll explain giving in a minute. It will be reasonable. Raise your hand, come on. Not an L. Now, and then you'll be going into Shabbos. So keep your hands up if you'll take it into Shabbos. Okay. Okay, and keep your hands up if you'll at least try to keep it going as long as you live. Nice. Okay, great. Regarding giving, Judaism allows for personal wealth. It allows for personal wealth. You don't have to give away your Jaguar. If you have $100 that someone gave you, yes, you do have to give 10. You don't have to give it all. Someone gives you a gift of a sweater. You don't cut off the sleeve and hand it to someone. It's your sweater. Someone who gives you a physical, someone gives you $100 and says pay your electricity, you don't give $10. If they say what it's for, you also don't give. They said what it's for. You have to give it for what it's for. You pay your electricity. I'm not giving you all the rules. There are rules around giving. It has to be done practically. It's got to be done in a way that your family still eats. But you will see that there's all kinds of ways to give that you just would never imagine. And I'll tell you, the guy who gives, and he makes Shabbos meals in the square, he doesn't make any money, but you'll notice he always has what to give. And he's fed so many people at his Shabbos meals in the square. And He didn't do that. He didn't pay for anything. If you're creative enough and you fan the flames of the giving in others, people will help you give to others. People will join up. People team up. You see sponsorships. Any event you go to has sponsors. Every Chinese auction, those people give that stuff for the cause because they want people donating to your cause. They'll give that stuff. Every raffle event that you go to that has a raffle, people gave. You can, and I promise you, the people who gave that trip to Israel, whatever it was, they had a lot more money than the person who ran that event that night. That person who ran the event couldn't give a free trip to Israel. It was the person who runs a travel agent that got to put up a banner in their event, gave a free trip to someone for Israel that changed that person's life. But because you ran this event with no budget, don't think you need money to make a huge difference. You can make a huge difference just by being committed to giving and let God show you the ways that He's going to have you give. Okay, shalom, everyone.